What's up, folks? Today I am going to tell you probably the biggest, hardest thing I've ever had to talk about. This is going to be very tough, but I'm going to try my best to get through it. It's a bit of a lengthy story, but trust me, it's pretty fucking insane. Because it ended with me euthanizing myself and ending up dead for 20 minutes. That's right, I tried to kill myself because at the time I was going through, I'm still going through the same amount of pain, but I was having seizures because of the SSRIs they were giving me. And the doctor at the ER told me it was Huntington's. For those of you who don't know what Huntington's is, it's one of those diseases that's worse than death. It's like Lou Gehrig's or like MS, where you lose control of your body and your limbs. And literally the doctor was like, here are the phases, you're in phase 3 in a year, someone's going to need to keep changing your diaper. And I'm very much a proponent of euthanasia. I believe Dignitas in Sweden is doing a great thing. I just wish it wasn't so expensive. And I believe people should be able to die with dignity. I think the world would be a better place if we accepted that we could take back death and we don't have to wither away to a painful illness that just saps the life out of you. You can take control. You can choose to take a handful of Seconal and go into a beautiful sleep that you just never wake up from. Simple as that. I think suicide, I don't recommend it, obviously, but I think the idea of it was created by the Catholic Church because why would anyone who was, say, a farmer in the Middle East want to survive, toiling in the fields all goddamn, fucking 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, for nothing, when they could just kill themselves, go to the kingdom of heaven and be in the presence of God and, have everything they ever wanted, right? It would be too easy. So they had to make it the most deplorable sin, Makes sense, right? Otherwise, it's oddly enough, killing myself, it's what made me really want to live. I don't know if you can still see it, but they had to shock my heart so many times that I had a big electrical burn like this. They had to put a little electrode in there and shock my amygdala. So I'll back up to the night of it. I'll go a little bit before that, because I was telling everyone that I wanted euthanasia. I wanted to legally die with my family around me if it turned out I had Huntington's. Of course, I was getting very little support there, but I was telling everyone, my psychologist, my doctor, they all knew this shit. They weren't doing anything, and I almost bought a bottle of phenobarbital off the internet to do it myself. And the thing is, here's the thing about suicide that not a lot of people know that's fucking awful. It's very parasitic. What I mean by that is once it plants its seed in your brain, it just metastasizes until you can't think about anything else. So really be careful when you say, I don't want this anymore. Trust me, careful what you wish for. Suicide is it's like a thought disease. I couldn't think about anything else. I was constantly researching, how in Australia there's this company that would give people this gas that their loophole was they'd sell it for brewing beer, but they'd give it to people with a hood they'd put the gas in, and people would take 3 big huffs and they'd just fucking pass out. But I was reading stories of people who did that and woke up and had just puked blood all over the place. So the thing about suicide is you gotta keep in mind it's so risky. You could fuck yourself up worse than you were before and still be alive. A kid could find your body, all this stuff, and that's why I really hate that, because I knew all these things. but I was so desperate to get out of it. I just I was at the point where I no longer cared, and yeah, I on New Year's Eve, I had one last just good time with my friend. I did some acid, and we went for a bike ride, and good times, and then we parted ways kind of a little before 12 because we were both kind of knackered anyways, and I knew what I was going to do, and so I wrote a new journal that my parents had bought me for my birthday, a little bit of a suicide note, and just tell them not to blame themselves for it and all that. It was pain that I probably put them through because of that. As I said, this is gonna be a hard one. But yeah. So then I took 40 Xanaxes, 42 milligram Xanaxes, and I went out to this bridge by my house. This has always been a powerful symbolic place for me, and because my uncle, he was killed in an accident that happened. My great uncle while building the bridge. And so I was gonna throw myself off, and yeah, so what happened was I started climbing over the fence, and I guess the Xanax kicked in, and I passed out. I was very lucky. Someone saw me, and so they called the cops, and the cops got there. I was completely unresponsive. Started shocking me, hit my amygdala. I don't remember much of anything from that, except for just like kind of being pulled up to the sky. And then I woke up, shackled to a bed 3 days later, and they're like, holy crap, with the drugs in your system, dude, you're lucky to be alive. So of course I got stuck in the psych ward, and they were like, we're just going to test some antidepressants on you. And my God, that was almost worse than the suicide. It was so bad, I was starting to think I was in hell, like I actually died and I was in Hades, because it was COVID, so we couldn't leave. They just locked us in a hallway, and we were surrounded by people who were just fucking stark raving mad. There was one other person who was sane there. Like, I have depression, I don't have psychosis, but it was crazy watching people like with bipolar or whatever. One person would get manic and it would set off a chain reaction, and like it got scary, man. Like but the thing was, I couldn't tell them I had tried to kill myself, because if I did, they would have had me involuntarily committed. So I had to on my feet while this effexor they were giving me was giving me seizures, spasms, and I didn't sleep for 8 days. My roommate was either masturbating or snoring. Oh God, it was awful. It was a nightmare. It was a true nightmare. Like, there was a guy in the quiet room, which is where they put the people who are like aggressive. They'll hold him down, shoot him up with some Haldol or something, and then throw him in this room. This guy was just bashing his head into the door like a fucking jackhammer for days on end. They took me into another part of the hospital. This is like the one time I left in the 3 weeks I was there to do, I think it was like a echocardiogram. And I could hear the banging from like the other wing of the hospital in the basement, and the psych ward, I believe, was on the 3rd floor. And this psych ward was fucking corrupt. The doctors were like clearly like pill farm doctors. Like, there's we have a terrible mental health system in BC, because our fucking government, in all its infinite wisdom, grants the ability for cops to, if they see anyone has a mental health rap sheet, they don't have to do any paperwork or anything. They can just dump you in the psych ward. It's no longer their problem. So a lot of people who ended up there really didn't do much of anything. Like, one person was there for yelling at their TV too loud. And he was there for, I think, the same amount of time I was, 3 weeks. He was very paranoid, though. He had, delusions of gang stalking, stuff like that. I really got close to getting him to admit that he was just kind of doing it for YouTube attention stuff, but the psychosis just was more convincing than I was, evidently. And he was very much a white supremacist, so like pretty nasty dude too. But anyways, the doctors, yeah, they wouldn't let people leave unless they took a $2,000 shot. And the thing is, you were punished so easily in this place. I remember when I found out that my clothes were sheared off of me, which I expected to begin with, but I had nothing. You gotta keep in mind, I had nothing. And those were my birthday clothes and everything. That's why I wore them. I thought they would have thrown them away if they had cut them to fucking ribbons, you know? So they're like, we have your clothes for you. Here you go. This is gonna be great. I look and I see they're all ripped. I'm like, God damn it. And they come up to me and they're like, here, take this. Shove some Ativan down my throat. And they're like, anything out of you again, you're going in the quiet room. Like, fuck. They're power hungry. And the thing is, all the people there, like the nurses and shit, they hate their patients. They're so jaded. I get it because they have to put up with a lot of awful shit. But, like, it got to the point of being fucked up. Like, since I wasn't sleeping at all, I was listening to the conversations the nurses would have because I could hear it echoing in the hallway, and they would talk about doing ecstasy and finger banging themselves in porta potties. That's actually kind of funny, but like these nurses were fucking bitches, and I don't use that term a lot, but they're a little cunty. I'm not gonna lie. Like seriously, I remember like once the one who was talking about diddling herself on E, like. I went up and I was like, can I see my cell phone, please, to my nurse? And she was like, you can wait a minute. And I was like, excuse me? Because they were just like chatting about whatever bullshit goes on in their fucking recreational lives. Like, and this woman, holy fuck, she said one of the most infuriating things I've ever heard, which was that, like, she was like, have you guys ever drank on the job, like been drunk on the job? And the other nurses were kind of sheepish and yeah, I don't know. And she's like, well, you've seen other people drunk on the job, and they're like, yeah. And she's like, well, like one time, like I was partying at the club, you know, it's a club, and like I went home and I did like one of those airplane shooters of vodka at like 3 or 5 in the morning because I had to work. And I came in and I was so hungover, and everyone was like, can I have my meds, please? Can I have my meds, please? And I just wanted to go, guys, shut the fuck up. It's not my fault you're here. Can you believe that? Not, whose fault is it? If you want to assign blame, take it up with God. They don't decide, like, these people aren't choosing their genetic fucking predispositions. There's a few people there who definitely had drug-related issues, like concurrent disorder, but that usually is because there's an underlying mental health issue that is not being adequately treated, so they're doing what they know that makes it get better. But in any case, yeah, so I had to spin this entire narrative about how it wasn't really suicide, it was just an accidental overdose, and that, like, the note I wrote was something else, and, like, I started to believe my own bullshit for a while, because I had complete amnesia about what happened that night for a long time, and it took me actually about 6 months or so, at least, to come to terms with what actually happened. Yeah, like, it was an awful place. Like, there's this, little Taiwanese kid, fucking, his parents were very rich, and they were benefactors of the hospital, so, like, he was going around groping women. He threw a blanket, big heavy blanket, at an old Hindu lady, which made me, like, almost, like, drop him, and they let it happen. They let him get his blood and shit all over the place because his mommy and daddy were taking care of the staff. Any one of those things he would do 40 times a day, we would get thrown in isolation for. it was awful, it was unfair, it was oppressive, and it was seriously like, and I'm I'm not saying this lightly, this was like 21st century residential school. They're awful places, and we're doing an awful job of it. I think just in general as a species. Yes, it's come a long way since, lunatic asylums back in the day, but guess what? You know what doctors, the only thing psychiatrists can offer me? Electroshock therapy. So we're not that different, really. And the antipsychotics they give people are chemical lobotomy. Anyways, they sleep like 20 hours a day. They have no emotions. They're just killing the person. So, they can, because it kills the insanity along with it. They just make them into vegetables, and it's unfortunate. I've seen people with schizophrenia embrace it in good ways. As hard as that may be to believe, I've seen it happen. I've seen very logical people be like, I have schizophrenia, I sometimes can talk to God and stuff like this, but so did the prophets back in the day. Like, that they weren't saying they were prophets, but they were like, it shouldn't be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just, and the thing is, I think society has a huge problem with not acknowledging our second biggest fear, first being death, second being insanity. Those are the two biggest existential throes, I think, of our entire existence. But no one wants to acknowledge that. That's why psych wards and residential facilities just want to house people. I had such a traumatic experience in the psych ward, man. Like, it was awful, dude. Because I had this 8-hour seizure from the medication. I was trying to sleep. This was like the 4th day of no sleep. I'm going up to the nurses and I'm like, please look at my arms. Like, this is worse than usual. Please, 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 please. And then I just started fucking flailing. Like, I fell on the ground and I was just like I couldn't control my muscles. It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And they were they thought I was fucking faking it and shit. Like, they brought in a nurse from the ER and who just stood in the dark on the other side of the fucking hallway and was like, yeah, he's fine. Left. And then 6 hours into it, where I'm sweating balls, sweating more than I've ever sweated, and I'm going, so tired, so tired, so tired. They were like, oh, maybe he's not faking it. But still didn't stop them from going, if you don't knock this off, we'll throw you in the quiet room. Good help, right? Right. But the big problem was they did a ECG on me, and lo and behold, 8-hour seizure. My heart rate was up a little bit. I've never sweat like I have in my entire life. Like I did in that seizure. And that seizure, I swear, that gave me Jedi mind tricks because I had to dissociate into my mind because of the pain and the loss of control in my body. It's truly awful. It was horrific. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I had to hog tie myself to my bed when I got back down so I wouldn't shake and get thrown in the dreaded fucking quiet room next to the banger. So traumatic. But because of the increased heart rate, they were like, we're taking you off all your medication because you could have a heart attack. And I was like, dude, you're going to make my heart rate go through the roof. I'm addicted to benzos and methadone and anticholinergics. I'm going to go through 3 types of withdrawal in the psych ward. Like, oh, it's just so fair. I had no choice in the matter. So yeah. I went through 8 days of awful withdrawal. Awful, awful, awful. And my fingers have been bent ever since. And they forced me onto morphine because it was my only choice. And that fucked me up so bad. It was just a nightmare. The whole thing was a fucking nightmare. And I remember when I first did sleep, I had the most vivid nightmares. The first one was I dreamed that I was part of a documentary crew 20 years from that day, and I was doing a documentary about how I either died or went insane in the psych ward. And I was interviewing like neighbors and members of family, but I would show up at the places and someone would answer the door and be like, "Oh, sorry, they're not here. They just died." And it was so real. It was so real. Yeah, no, I fucking hated that place. They sent me to VGH, where the doctor literally within less than 24 hours was like, "I see no reason why you need to be here. I'm letting you go tomorrow." Simple as that. Yeah, it's the most dehumanizing thing ever. Like, you have to wear like you know, these PJs, these prison PJs, unless you get privileges and you can wear your own clothes. Like, it's awful. It is humiliating and yeah, degrading. Again, you know, like, it made me lie to myself about like killing myself. Like, that's a big deal. Yeah, so I really hope our mental health system works a little bit better. Make some like really like heavily needed changes, focusing more on concurrent disorder, because concurrent disorders is addiction and mental health. As I said, people trying to treat what is not being aptly treated. And there's something, I have a phrase about psychiatrists, not psychologists. Psychiatrists they are a bastardization of what they once were. They have a kind of policy in the city, and I call it pills first, questions later, because they will give you a diagnosis, and it doesn't matter if it's confirmed, if it's just a little blip of a thought in their brain, they will medicate you. They tried to do that with me with bipolar and lithium and stuff like that as a teenager. They need to stop doing that. They need to focus more on stuff like CBT, DBT. I did DBT because they misdiagnosed me with borderline personality disorder. And you know what? I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot from it. I believe these things should be taught in school because it teaches you how to ground yourself in reality and how to be more objective. They need to focus on actual methods and tactics, like not just fucking throwing pills at people. Like, they were giving out Ativan like it was no one's business when I was there. Like, fuck, my roommate would be so fucked all day, and he would just get up every 6 hours after sleeping and snoring like I've never heard someone snore in my life. Just go, "I have anxiety, can I have an Ativan, please?" They just give it to him. Like, it's like they're shooting it out like hockey pucks, one after the other. And you know what? Like, there's one nurse who was cool because she just started, but I could tell she was getting more and more jaded just in the amount of time I was there. But she actually was the one who made a lot of shit happen for me and other people because she cared. I'm sure these nurses cared when they started the job. I'm sure they started it for a reason, but then just had to deal with so much overwhelming craziness that they just got sick of it. So I don't fully blame them for being, you know, like that, like terminally jaded, but, you know, their patients shouldn't have to suffer for it. And if you're a nurse, don't drink on the fucking job. Duh. Anyways, so yeah, that's the last in my 3 Deaths Before 30 installment. I don't intend to die again anytime soon if I can help it, you know. Like, I did 6 drugs last night, and I was very careful. I have no hangover because I was very hydrated. I was very careful about what I mixed, and, you know, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for you to share this with me. So have a terrific day. And if you're strong enough to share your stories in response, that would be so touching to me. All right. Keep it real.